Hey guys, in this video I want to get and dive deep into the Sony CineAlta Venice. This is a really big deal, and I'm not just saying that because that's what Trump says all the time. I'm saying it's a big deal because it's a big challenge to Red, and I'd really love to get into that with you. So the way Red makes their cameras is from a modular perspective, right? They have the sensor is even separate from the computer, the brain. Then all of the accessories are modular. You can just pop them all on. It really, they don't give you much to actually be able to do anything with right out of the box. And you also have to record to their proprietary Red code bits. And I mean, it's like everything from the literal SSD card that you use, SSD drive that you use, to the thing to put the SSD drive onto the camera, all of it. You can't even get XLR input without bending over backwards to be able to get all your audio in camera. And now the Venice, big deal. It's a full frame sensor. Most sensors are like APS-C size. They're Super 35 APS-C. Very similar sort of a thing there. But this is a full frame sensor on the Venice. And so what it's going to look like is you can license out to get access to the full frame and access to the anamorphic at 6,000 and 10,000 euros a piece. So that'll bring the total cost of this device up to about 47,000 euros right now. So that's on par with a Red. So people that are buying Reds, this is the similar market for that. The other really notable big thing that I probably should have gotten to sooner is the mount type, the lens mount type. So it comes with a PL mount on it, but then literally underneath, you undo 6 screws and there's a locking E-mount. Just there, it's right there. And what that means is that for people who are like an MKBHD, who are using that level of camera, or a Linus, or whomever else in this space, in the YouTube space, that wants a really high-end camera and is going to pay for that really high-end camera, or a studio, like a smaller production that's going to spend a lot on the camera, what you can do is just undo that PL mount and then put like a Metabones adapter on there, or an MC11, and suddenly you have an EF mount CineAlta camera. Or you can just use Sony's E-mount lenses. They have Cine lenses, they have very, very good stills lenses. You can basically you could put a Nikon F lens on there with an adapter because it's an E-mount, it's a mirrorless mount under the PL mount. That's always there. So you can go with the really high-end PL mount lenses, right? Like a Thalia, I bring up like a Thalia in particular because that's the ones that they showed on the camera and all the displays and everything, which was very interesting to me. But there's a million bajillion really, really high-end optics that you can put on there for PL mount. But then as soon as you take that PL mount off, there's also a ton of really great options for people who don't have the budget to buy a Cooke lens, right? Or like a Thalia lens. You can put a Sigma Art FE mount Cine lens on here, or you could just put your Sigma Art EF mount stills lens on there with an MC11. Like, you don't have to pay to change out the mount like you do for Red. Red, the mount costs another $5,000 or whatever it is, right? So up to, I think, $5,000. I could be off on that, but the point is that you don't have to pay for the mount, and then you get 2. The user can just unscrew 6 screws, and there you go. The PL mount is very secure. It's very much locked on there, but it is held in by screws, and you undo the screws, and boom, that's a huge. You're getting 2 mounts. You're getting 2 lens mounts on one camera. I don't know that there's another camera out there that does that. Now, if you want to record RAW, you can go with Sony's modular accessory. If you want, to use all of your previously purchased CineAlta accessories, you can use those because it's compatible, because they're going for that modular thing. So this is really interesting because you're getting so much more usability out of a Sony CineAlta full frame camera than you are out of a Red for a number of reasons. First off, because I said first, but now I'm using this finger. I hope that's okay. First off, because you're getting more sensor, more aspect ratio. It's an aspect ratio agnostic sensor. You can shoot anything you'd like on it. You can mostly shoot anything you want on a Red, right? That's not new. You're getting a ton of dynamic range, all that, but you're now going to get some of that dynamic range back with Sony's, raw type of dealio. They call it a camera negative, digital camera negative. So original camera negative, there we go. And so that raw file is really rich, right, in terms of dynamic range. But going back to the sensor, to the aspect ratio, like there aren't many other people that can do that, right? Now it's Sony and Red. So I don't think Red is quite as diverse as Sony is, and Red does offer resolutions that are much higher, but when you're going to shoot anamorphic, when you de-squeeze that back to a 16:9 aspect ratio, you're going to get a much, much higher resolution effectively, right? Because your vertical is substantially greater than it would be on a 16:9. The business model as well, licensing the different types of sensor capability that you can unlock makes this device very much a modular system. So the Venice is entirely a modular system aimed very much at getting into Red space. Sony already makes phones, so they could pick up something and do something like a Hydrogen One if they really wanted to. They're a consumer electronics company. They have the working R&D capital to be able to do that, right? So, I mean, this is a very strong step forward. Sony also has production studio. They have studios where they can, basically make everybody use their cameras. So they can, kind of force business that way. So Red doesn't have that. Red is being bought by a lot of people, sure, but they don't have the same production capacity that Sony does. So I'm not saying that Red is obsolete at all, right? But if you want a product sooner, then you'd be able to get it. If it were a Red, if you want the same capacity as a Red, but you don't want to buy a Red because their modularity is ridiculous, then you can go with Sony now. Like, Sony is opening this really big new door, and this is a really, really high-end cinema camera, right? Like, this is a camera that would be used to film very big budget blockbuster summer movies, right? So Reds are being used that way as well, but again, they don't have the same kind of studio support that Sony does, because Sony has a production studio. And when the EVA-1 was coming out earlier this year, when they were starting to talk about it a lot more, the great thing about that is that it was EF mount. And a lot of people at whom that device is geared towards have EF mount lenses. A lot of people at whom this device is geared towards also have EF mount lenses, because it's no longer just the huge studios that are going after these types of cameras, these cost of cameras. It's also creators in this space that are looking to be able to give the people that they're working with very high quality pieces of content in terms of the image, right? And you can do that with a Red. You can do that with a CineAlta, with the Sony CineAlta. So, the other really interesting thing is that this doesn't, the Venice doesn't knock out the F5, the F55, the F65. And those are great cameras. Like, no one's going to say boo hiss on those. But, this has taken the top spot now. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see who adopts this and why. Because a guy like MKBHD is kind of in bed with Red. And I mean that in the best possible way. I'm, really excited for him to have that opportunity, because that way, he shares it with us, and it's a really cool partnership. But a guy like Linus, who's also using Reds, very easily could say, I'm tired of this shit because I'm having to spend so much money on cameras that, on bits that aren't even the camera just to make it usable, when with this Sony CineAlta, it's like you're given two mounts and a body that has an XLR input right on the body, so you don't even have to worry about recording your audio in camera. Like, it's just that little tweak. It's just a little tweak. It's going to give you 6K anamorphic, which translates to about 10K normal aspect ratio. Once you de-squeeze it and everything, it's going to give you so much for about the same cost. So, as well as full frame, which is fantastic. So anyway, that's all I got. I think it's a big deal. I think it's a big deal not because it's a great camera, but because of where it's kind of going in the market space. So thank you very much for your time and for your attention. I'll see you in the next one.